Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries Live with Tanya E. Well, I am glad I get the chance to see you, and I'm hoping that you listened to this morning's episode because if you have, then you know that I shared the levels of learning and communication. We don't often pay attention to how we communicate sometimes, and we walk into some situations and we're sharing our information. We think that we are being received, we think we're being heard, we think we're doing all the things, only to find out later on, mm-mm, what you said did not get heard. What you thought was conveyed did not even happen. And you are walking through your environment trying to make certain that your conversations are efficient and effective. Now, we can't get to the position of having an effectiveness that we desire if we don't start at the beginning. In this morning's episode, I shared what I typically share with my clients, the levels of learning. And in the levels of learning, I have 5 levels that I typically walk through for individuals. I start off with awareness. And let me share the screen so that you can see this part. Because when I'm teaching this, I just walk people through the process so that you know that when you want to be effective, you got to start at the beginning. You start off with being aware of how you communicate, aware of how the person that you want to communicate to receives it. Think about it like this. If you're having discussions with individuals and you're speaking 2 different languages, even if you're speaking English, sometimes it seems like it's 2 different languages. So if I'm sharing one thing in one way, and I think that the way that I'm sharing that information, you'll receive it, but that's not how you learn, that's not how you receive, we get lost. We're crossing paths. And then when we get to the end of whatever that project, whatever that task, whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish, you discover you missed each other. You were passing in the night and you didn't even know. That is why we have to pause enough to learn how do others learn. So when you become aware, you can move into the next level, which is understanding. When we walk through a measure of understanding what we're doing, how we communicate, it helps you and it helps those around you get into a better position. Because we often forget sometimes that there are barriers to our communication when we don't understand how we show up, what we are saying. And for a lot of us in this digital age, we're emailing, we're texting, we're doing everything lots of times through word. As much as we have now for a lot of individual, your chat GPTs, your artificial intelligence, what AI thing to try to find the human construct, no matter what that does, the human construct, the heart of who you are, still can't fully be felt. A lot of why that occurs is because 93% of the way that we communicate occurs through our body language and our tone. Think about it. If somebody is saying, I'm fine, you just read the words I'm fine, and you don't know how it's stated, the body language, the position, the tone, those things give us greater emphasis. Because if I just start off with, I'm fine, that is the same words. But if you look at my face, if you hear my tone, it'll make you wonder, is it really fine? Are you truly sure? Or if you walk by and you say, hey, how's your day? And they'll be like, oh, I'm fine. That gives you a better impression that they're fine. But for some individuals, they may have had an encounter and they'd be like, I'm fine. That gives you the impression that you're guessing. The way their facial features show up will give you a different thought as well. So words alone do not convey enough when we want to communicate, which is why you have to get an understanding of the people that you are speaking to, an understanding of how you are being received, an understanding of what you will do next. And once you get to the understanding, then you reach level 3 of what I share in my levels of learning, acceptance. I can accept the words that are written on the page when I have more of an understanding of who you are. And when I really know who you are, how you show up, how your cadence is when you speak, your facial expressions when you say certain things. When I'm reading something specifically from you, It is in the reading that I attach who you are. Now, when we are having our business meetings and our different elements walking through this phase, and you have someone that you're working with on a team, you're brand new to the team, you've never met them, I strongly encourage you, like I shared in this morning's episode. And if you did not listen to this morning's episode, go back, listen, and then comment below. You can find that on where podcasts can be found and easily located on my YouTube channel. I'll put the link down below. So when you meet your team, I encourage you to have a kickoff meeting for every project that you have when you're getting a new team. If you can do it in person, that's even better. But I recognize being in this environment where we have teammates that cross the seas lots of times, do a video meeting and have your team share their picture, their voice, their face on screen. Because when you read something from them moving forward, you will apply the facial features that you've seen, the words that you've heard. You'll almost hear them when they start speaking. So, writing out their voice will be translated in that as well. So, meet your team face to face, get connected that way. And here's another thing, because of the way that we are wired, we often forget that we are relational beings. When you walk into a room, you don't have to speak to someone. They don't have to even say a word. And like I shared this morning, you get sort of a feeling. It's like an energy exchange. You'll say, I really like this person. And they haven't even said a word. That happens when we connect. Because being in front of another person, there's something about them that interconnects with the element of your being, your heart centered soul, especially if you're the type of person that automatically connects to support, to give help, to be present for those around you. You have like an internal beacon that is tuned in to those that are around you. And you have a way of finding out just by looking at someone. Do they need your help? Is there something that you can do to be a better support? And if their words and their tone does not match, as a heart centered soul, you're usually the first one that recognizes that. Here's the next thing in the levels of learning: appreciation. Now that you have an awareness of the individuals that's on your team, you have an understanding of how they communicate, the words that they're conveying can be translated better, and you have accepted, you can now appreciate it. It's when we start appreciating one another that we have greater credence to trust. Effectiveness is only at its best when you trust your team, when you trust those that are around you. Because if you trust them, when you give them a task, you have more of an understanding that it will be well. And if they trust you, when they receive that task, they will do it with exception. They will do it with a capability that you always appreciate, which will make you more effective. And that can migrate into efficiency because then you start having a synergy with one another, a synergy that can give you support in completing the task that's before you, and a synergy that will help them maximize what's needed. So, this morning's episode, I shared elements of the levels of learning, and I also walked through what happens to us when we find ourselves in position where we aren't really communicating well. There are barriers that we often miss. And I share three barriers: perception, emotional, and cultural. Now, we don't often want to think that we have our biases that we're bringing to the table, but you have biases. I have biases that we bring when we show up in environments. We also attach those biases to certain words. There are words that you may hear that will be conveyed in a different light depending on how you found that word initially. The thing that I don't think we appreciate enough when we are learning new languages or experiencing new things, whatever that first is, first thought, first words, first feelings, first connecting points, we create a bias to it. Think about it like this. If you have a favorite dessert, because when I'm speaking business, or personal elements, I try to take a lot of it out of the piece. So my analogies often happen around food or homes because it's just part of my first. Because I was raised by my grandmother. My grandmother gave me the impression that food fixed anything. So I felt like food was the connecting point to all of my moments in the world. So when I hear certain words, get certain thoughts, there are elements that are associated with food. So using that thought process while I'm sharing this way, if you have a favorite dessert, and that favorite dessert you first received from the loving hands of your grandmother, you watched her as she may have taken her time to, let's use pie. Apple pie, a lot of people like. And you watched her cut up the apple pie. You watched her marinate apples inside of the sugar and all the nutmeg and whatever else she decided to put in it. And if your grandmother was like mine, she made her crust from scratch. So you watched her put the flour inside of the bowl. She watched her mix all the various pieces and then take the rolling pin and flatten out the crust so that she can then put the apples in it. If you watched that experience and got the opportunity, like a lot of young people that had those moments, to taste the things along the way, your grandmother's apple pie is the best apple pie in the world because it was your first. And when you have someone else's apple pie, you have an unconscious bias that ties every apple pie to your grandmother's apple pie. So when you have words that you have experienced, where you first learned it, how you first learned it, you will attach a bias to it. So when you see it written without having had a conversation with the person that wrote it or been in an environment where that person and you have connected in a different way, where you went through the levels of learning so that you can be effective, you'll attach that barrier of a bias to it. And you could lose someone in the process. The other bias that I shared, you're going to have to go back and listen to this morning's episode because I don't want to take up a whole lot of time because this is the extended conversation. And in the extended conversation, I like to try to answer some questions that I received. And one person that asked a question of me along the way said, "Are you saying my words don't matter?" Let me answer this. The answer is yes and no. Your words matter. I want you to truly understand that your words matter. How you feel matter. What you wanted to convey matters. But I also want you to understand that your words only make up 7% of how people will actually receive what you are saying. They will use their own interpretations. They will use their own bias moments, be it emotional or cultural, and how those are defined is what I stated in this morning's episode. How you say something is often more important than what you say. And a simple text or an email can't convey that. So it can get lost along the way. So what you're saying, the words matter. But what you intend to have displayed or felt or received may not come across. So I'm hoping that that gives you something. And join me in the live conversations. And if you are watching this on a replay, leave your comments below so that we can extend the conversation. Because I understand that a lot of people may misunderstand if I'm being clear with various things. Communication isn't just about what you say, as I stated, it's about how other people receive what you're saying. Their emotions, their past experiences, their subconscious biases have a play in what your words will be in when they hear it, which is why, if you've seen the image that I place with this, they can't hear you because they're reading what you say through their own lens. So go through the levels of learning. Take the moment to be aware as much as you can, which is often for those that are watching this as life coaches and people in that arena that are sharing your words with others. Get real intimate with your audience. And I show up and I had to learn to show up, y'all. so that you can hear my voice, so that you can see my expression, and hopefully you can feel my heart in the process. Because when I share the information that I'm sharing, I want to convey it because I do not want anyone, those that are divorcees or losing themselves in the chaos and bustle of professional, if I can get my words together, or personal environments that leave you pause because you lost you trying to play catch up because your heart centered soul poured yourself so much into one individual or one space and place, and you found that you were ripped from that environment. That is the person that I often speak to because it's an experience that I walk through. And I don't want you to have to stand on the landmines that I've already crossed. So if I can write the words in such a way that touch your heart, I want you to receive it. But I also recognize that I got to show up so that you can see me, so that we can connect better, so that we can get a different insight. Because when I wrote what I wrote, whether you're reading an article or reading an email or checking on a text, when you have enough touch points of interacting with me in this way, I am hoping that you can feel my heart for you as we walk through the process. And when I invite you to join me on the journey to extend this conversation or go deeper in some of the courses that I teach, you now know a little bit more about my heart. And I can be the sound that you hear when you read my words, and we can connect a little bit better. So, as you're trying to reach those that are around you, here's something else that I've learned. There are about 700 hours that people need to really engage and see you, some element of your voice or your face, to start feeling in the connection of awareness before they start moving up the levels of learning, which is one of the reasons why I think YouTube has its little elements of how many views you have and how much you can do before you start expanding a lot further. It makes sense when you look at it from this perspective. And I'm hoping that you got some great insight to support you on this journey. Don't just let your words alone convey your message. If you're an author, a speaker, or coach, show up. Let them see you. Let them hear you. And in environments where you are shifting or transitioning in a professional area and you want to be elevated to the next level, let them see you. Because on my job for a long time, y'all, people saw my name, but they didn't see my face because I hid out in the background. But I didn't get my promotions until I decided to let my face and my name be connected. Personally and professionally, stay connected so that your heart can be seen. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, just remember your words matter. But we also need to hear your voice and see your body. So let them see you and let your heart stay in it. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There we can easily connect with one another on the various platforms that I am in addition to these. I look forward to seeing you. Take care, everyone.